Hello, and welcome to another episode of Celiac Straight Talk, the podcast where we come together for a cure. I'm Claire Baker, Senior Communications Director at Beyond Celiac, a nonprofit dedicated to fostering greater understanding and awareness and accelerating research for treatments and a cure for celiac disease, a serious genetic autoimmune disease. Thanks for tuning into this episode, and don't forget to like and share our podcast. Arturo, lovely to see you again.
You too, Claire. Thank you for talking with me and sharing some of my experience with our listeners.
So, would you mind just introducing people who are listening, introduce yourself and how you came to know Beyond Celiac, why it matters to you, and how it plays out in your life?
Well, of course, my name is Arturo Chacón Cruz. I am an opera singer from Mexico, living in the United States now for over 2 decades. I was going to say recently diagnosed with celiac disease, but it's not recently. It's been a while. It's been almost 12 years now. And living with celiac was very challenging at first, but I have found that with the help of Beyond Celiac and many other wonderful people that I have met through Beyond Celiac, it is much easier, and it is very doable to continue living a wonderful, fulfilling life in spite of this disease.
When we first started talking, I think your son had just recently been diagnosed, and the whole issue of celiac disease became much more, salient, I think, in your life at that point. Is that true?
Yes, well, my biggest, you know how it is when it's about us, we don't care so much. When it's our kids, we become Papa Bear or Mama Bear or Lion, and we have to do the most that we can, and that's how it happened in our case. So,
and the family connection is so big, and that's for some people it's a risk factor they may not realize. All of my family is now blessed with the opportunity to get diagnosed with celiac disease because they're related to me. Just the gift of being related to me, and also for you. So,
yeah.
And how's everyone's health these days?
They're okay. My son is doing well. My mother, who has also celiac disease, is doing well. Of course, following a strict diet and avoiding other things, as you all people listening know. It is not only the gluten. Sometimes it is a mystery how we can get gluten or triggered by other things, and sometimes they happen, sometimes they don't. We keep struggling with those unknowns, but at least the gluten-free diet helps for the most part.
You have you're world renowned. You travel all over. You perform all over the world. You're probably gone as much as you're home.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
With the rehearsals and performances and that sort of thing. What is your experience in general, or even recently, in terms of traveling, staying someplace that is not your home, managing the gluten-free diet while you're working?
It's very challenging, especially in some other countries where the language barrier or the cultural barrier of you're exaggerating. We saw this on TV, or all the people who think they're hip, they're doing the gluten-free diet. So that's one of the biggest challenges, is that when people think you're making it up, when people think you're exaggerating, more than the language barrier, because when I'm in China or Japan, and I explain this as an allergy. Well, I say an allergy because that's why they understand. I don't have time to go explaining the autoimmune thing. They react and they help, but when you're sometimes in less I don't know, enlightened states or parts of the world, when it's like, oh, another gluten-free, it is tough. It's very tough. Even recently, I think I'm gluten currently.
From an international trip?
No, I'm in the States right now, but in a restaurant that somebody didn't believe me.
Yeah. And that's frustrating. I mean, you've been diagnosed 12 years. You've had a lot of practice. You know what happens to your body, and you probably more than, like, if I get glutened, I'm down and out. But it's I can rebound even if my physical self isn't feeling awesome right away. But
Yeah.
you're being an opera singer is akin to being a professional athlete in terms of what you need your body to do and when.
Yeah.
Um, what happens if you discovered you've come into contact with gluten and you're due on stage?
Well, in my case, I have no choice. We opera singers, we have pay for play contracts. So if we don't sing, we don't perform, we don't get paid. So that goes. If we were rehearsing for a whole month, I get gluten on the last day before the performances. I don't get paid, and I spent money on my plane ticket, my hotels, my meals, and of course everything else. And that's it. It's a loss. So I've discovered that I have to bounce back really quickly, push myself, which I end up paying for later on. Um, what I do is I just drink a lot of water. I eat a lot of fiber. I go buy a bunch of strawberries, blueberries, just to clean the system. And it sort of works when there's not too much inflammation. I found that pentasa sometimes works to reduce some of the um, inflammation in my intestines. But it is a tough situation, especially when it hits you never know. At least me, I never know if it's going to be gastro reaction or it's going to be a neurological reaction where my hands start shaking, where my brain fog just kicks in. Thankfully, I seem to be enunciating and speaking properly today. So I think it's mostly a physical reaction this time.
Does it probably has an impact on choices you make in those days leading up to performance also, in terms of is it safe, is it not? Maybe you get more strict.
Yeah, I get super strict, no risks at all. I go, and even if I have to fast, I will fast. Drink water, and I don't know, just find if I can find fruit somewhere. I was in France recently, and I don't know, they have so many holidays. Everything was closed, but I found this very small little ethnic store that didn't follow any of the religious or national holidays, that was always open and always had bananas. So I lived on bananas for like 4 days because, yeah.
Well, I guess if there's one food to live on, it's not a bad one, in terms of,
It could be worse.
it could be worse, right? It could be worse. And then, the banana diet, the banana diet was a thing, right? Before they figured out exactly what was going on, that gluten was the culprit,
Yeah.
Hey, these kids on bananas do really well. It's because they were eating bananas instead of gluten, or instead
That's
of
right.
regular food. Well, you know that we've been doing a lot of work in diversity, equity, and inclusion, trying to make sure that everyone who has celiac disease has access to accurate diagnosis, good health care, that sort of thing. And celiac disease kind of has the reputation, the stereotype of being a disease that is white middle-aged women, people who look a lot like me.
We call it the Karen disease, right?
Yeah, and even with that, then people are like, okay, it kind of takes it to the realm of not a real thing, or it's if you're of a certain demographic, it's a luxury to be able to have the opportunity for diagnosis. But it's autoimmune disease, and the testing for it isn't outrageous. There's a blood test, and there's a whole protocol for it if doctors know to look for it.
Yeah.
And so we're finding, our evidence seems to reveal that certain parts of the United States are misdiagnosis. People who are not white are frequently less likely to be diagnosed. You are a man, you're from Mexico. What do you think that any of your your gender or your nationality had any impact on your journey to diagnosis?
I believe so. I had gone to more than 10 doctors with severe intestinal and neurological distress. And I was always ignored or discounted. I don't know if my accent had anything to do. I am a well-spoken person, so I don't know. I don't think so. But I do have a tendency to be nice to people, very nice, probably too nice. And I didn't push those doctors for them to do a better job. Finally, when I found a doctor who diagnosed me with depression, and that's what was giving me my stomach distress. I said, "Sir, I'm not depressed." And I got really upset, and I said, "This is crazy. I mean, I'm here for help, and I'm not getting." And it did. I just left, and I decided never to go back to a doctor for this. I said, "That's it. This is who I am. This is my life." But when my son was having such distress, is when we started fighting for him and for my wife as well. I mean, we are a team, and especially her. She did a lot of research, and she called. We went to several doctors in several countries until it was finally a diagnosis, and then of course they recommended that I do it, and voila.
What do you say to men? What do you say to men who think, "Oh, I'm not gonna. That's not a thing." Do you have?
I am responsible for several men going to the doctor and saying, "Test me for this," and they having celiac disease. I am responsible. People who were like, "I see it in you. I see you in you what I used to be," and yeah, I don't see it's less resistance. I believe. There is a certain demographic, probably a certain age plus, that will say, "Suck it up. It is life, uh, get over it." But this is men who are not feeling their experience is a different one. And if it is something with another autoimmune disease or any other disease, they have a body that is able to get over it, or I don't know. It is to their detriment, to their life and to their relationships and everything. And I think it's not fair for them also, having been a part of a generation that made them like that. So it is a time for enlightenment. It is a time for thinking again, for thinking, you know what? Yes, it was done like this. Let's try something new. Let's try something that might benefit our families. Because if I'm sucking it up, I'm like, okay, I feel like crap, but I'm a man, and men don't complain. Your relationship with your partner, your relationship with your kids, grandkids, parents if you're younger, it will be terrible. Even the relationship with yourself, you won't be able to think properly, to act properly. So for God's sakes, let's get this out of the way. Test yourself. Even if you find that you're not celiac, it will give you another avenue to look for something else. But yeah, I totally believe that this predisposition society has imposed on certain men. It's a hindrance to society itself.
I think tied into that was the fad diet of gluten-free. The gluten-free fad diet really helped us in terms of making more food available. And it helped with getting accurate labeling on gluten-free foods and more restaurant options and that sort of thing. But I think the fad diet for some people made it be not a real thing, or gluten-free food got such a bad reputation, which not that it didn't deserve it a while ago, but gluten-free food has gotten much better. Yeah. But some people, in the research we've done and have identified that some people won't get tested for celiac disease because they're not going to do the diet. They're like, I don't care if I have that. I'm not eating gluten-free.
Yeah.
What do you say to somebody who's got that? I'm not going to do that because the gluten-free diet sounds terrible.
I would say, think again. I mean, you're gonna regret it for the short life you'll have after that. Your life, it's worth it. I think my gluten-free life is way more accomplished, way more much healthier for sure. I feel I see everything. I'm not in a cocoon anymore, trying to survive. It is living, and without it, it's not living. Gluten pizza is not worth it. I would eat bananas for the rest of my life if it meant living like this. Of course, the fad diet, it has given us a little bit of excuses to be made fun of on talk shows or movies or sitcoms. I get it. And I get it. I have a friend who works in the restaurant business. A client comes in, is like, I'm gluten free. Oh, certainly. I have a friend who's gluten free, and I know I've seen him. So they wash all the pots, they wash all the kitchen, they make the new water for pasta, they make everything extremely gluten free. And at the end of the meal, the person asks for a piece of cake. Oh, no, 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 you can't. It has gluten. Oh, a little bit of gluten won't hurt me. That, yeah, they make this happen for us. They're the ones who cannot have a micro piece of gluten. And I understand why some people think it's a fad and it's stupid and it's funny, but we would really need to make that distinction between fad diet and celiac disease.
So I had a couple of thoughts there. When our surveys and research indicate that 10 to 12% of people diagnosed with celiac disease will intentionally eat gluten at least once a year, which I find that shocking. I just know how symptomatic I am when I eat gluten. So I would never make that choice. And so I'm surprised. And you and I are on the same page in terms of, that's going to jeopardize your long-term health and well-being. Is that piece of cake, is that slice of pizza worth it? And so maybe it just comes down to community education, that it's not, if you have symptoms, you're going to have them immediately, but you don't really know what's going on with your whole systemic inflammation situation. So please don't, if you're listening, or
it's not worth it. I'm chatting with I have a friend who's a retired gastro doctor, and he would say there was one of his patients who he would go on vacation 2 weeks with his friends every year, and those 2 weeks he would eat gluten, and he would come back 20 pounds lighter from all the evacuation, and recover for 6 to 8 weeks, like be awful. But to him, of course, he used to do this in his 70s because this is what he felt life was going to be. Anyway, it is your choice ultimately. But if I can recommend it to anyone, I find my experience, my view of life, it is so much better when I don't risk it, when I don't intentionally eating some gluten. I don't see it. I did it once when I had been first diagnosed, because my mentor, was his birthday, and he cut me a piece of cake, and he was so excited to share his favorite cake, and I had a bite that night. Oh my goodness. I said to my wife, never, ever, ever again.
I think so. Before I was diagnosed, I had symptoms, but I didn't realize they were symptoms. I just thought everybody felt kind of lousy all the time.
Same here.
And so many of us report that. And so I think for the people who are like, I'm not going to get tests because I'm never going to do that diet, they don't know that they could feel much better. So that's, again, that's part of the work of Beyond Celiac. We're about, making sure people have accurate information about celiac disease, know the risks. So if you've got a family member who's got celiac disease, you're at risk, but there's also a whole host of symptoms. A lot of them are, physical GI symptoms, but neurological, even you mentioned brain fog, depression and anxiety are right up there, joint pain, all kinds of stuff. So we just want to arm people with the best information to help them get diagnosed so that they can live as healthy a life as they can.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it's kind of tough to stay gluten-free, right? I've been doing this for 12 years now, and I probably get glutened once or twice a year, and at least half those times it's my fault. Like something like I didn't read the package, or I thought I was eating the gluten-free brownie and it was real brownie. And I'm like, I'm a pro. This is what I do all day, every day. And it still happens to me.
Yeah, definitely. And some packaging is wrong. And this is what people don't know, and they just put gluten-free. I guess the labeling but anyway, we need to be careful and read before you intake something into your sacred temple, which is your body.
Well, and if it were labeled gluten-free, that's not on you at all. That's like, it is frustrating, but that's why Beyond Celiac has shifted from awareness and get diagnosed to we need better. This is not okay that we have a disease that, at least there's a treatment. There's gluten-free diet's what we've got, but it's not always effective. And for some people, it's not effective at all. And it's so easy to get gluten that we want to be able to find alternatives that will help us be able to live life to the fullest, travel, socialize, go, enjoy the holidays, do the normal things. And it will also probably help other people get diagnosed, those who are like, I'm not going to get tested because I'm not going to do that diet. Or save your friend who goes on vacation and glutens it up while he's out there.
Yeah, no. If our example or our conversation can be a guide to someone, we have a full life, we have a happy life, happier than before, and that's thanks to this diet. And Beyond Celiac is doing this amazing work of not only exploring the products that may be tainted or exploring how to do the gluten-free diet in a better way. The finding the cure, I find it is outstanding, and it is my number one reason for giving my time and my efforts and to join you guys as a spokesperson and as a biggest fan, because I believe in your work and I believe in the strength of what you're doing.
Well, I don't know if an organization can be a fan, but we collectively at Beyond Celiac, you are definitely our favorite. You're our favorite opera singer, your favorite spokesman, spokesguy. So we're forever grateful that you stepped up, raised your hand, and said, "Hey, I want to help in raising awareness, driving diagnosis, and accelerating research for treatments in a cure." It's really, we're all in this together. That's our tagline: together for a cure. And that you put yourself out there as a famous, world famous opera singer to adopt us as your cause is it's.
People would think that I'm one of those fad diet people. No, I will one by one change their point of view, and I hope that we can do amplify that, changing the point of view of many people. And I think we'll do it. I think starting with our community and adding some of my community from the Spanish speaking countries and sharing this with them, because as you know, there isn't much information, or everything is diluted when it comes down to other translations.
We're thrilled to have you as part of the fight and the cause for celiac disease. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we wrap it up?
No, just that we should follow the common sense rule. Nowadays, everything is obscured by extremes in diet too. But if you say, no, I don't want to be restricted forever into a diet. I don't want to be sick forever because of this. No, using our common sense, we can find a way of having a nice balance, equilibrium of life, diet, going out. Yes, I go much less to restaurants when I'm home, because I'd rather cook and not risk it. But I found the joy of cooking, for example. And when I go to restaurants, I know how to speak to people. I know which restaurants once I see the face when I have celiac disease. What is that? Oh, gluten. Oh, no, it's fine. And they don't even know what it is. So I know to leave that restaurant. But it gives you another experience at life, and the feeling good using common sense, it will always win.
Couldn't say it better myself.
Thanks, Claire.
Thank you, Arturo. We'll
You
talk
bet.
to you again soon.
Thanks again for listening to Celiac Straight Talk. To learn more about life with celiac disease, visit our website at beyondceliac.org.